Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session on loneliness. My name is Maria Pajan, and I'm with the Center for Innovation in Campus Mental Health. This session is intended for post-secondary students and in particular for international students studying across Canada. It will provide some high-level information on loneliness and is intended as an educational session. It is not meant as a therapeutic intervention. The objectives of the session today are to really do a deep dive and get a better understanding of loneliness and how it may impact us. We will also look at some strategies to decrease loneliness in our lives. Let's take a moment and set the context. We are living in very stressful times. Many people are still feeling the repercussions of the pandemic. Every time we turn around and we turn on the news, we are inundated with world events and the news, and this can just increase our sense of foreboding. So what is loneliness? Loneliness is an evolutionary adaptive emotion that helps us to seek out connections and form communities. In order to understand loneliness, we must acknowledge that human connection is as important to our well-being as other needs, such as food or water. Humans are social creatures by nature. Regardless of your personality type, there is no way to work around our deep need for connection to and with others. Loneliness will feel different for everyone, but a common experience is the absence of adequate connection with others. This can manifest as unwanted feelings such as sadness, shame, and despair. It is common to go through feelings of loneliness. According to Stats Canada, more than 10% of Canadians are always or often lonely. Changes and transitions can also trigger loneliness, and many students in post-secondary experience loneliness as well. Often, loneliness can be a predictor for mental distress, and it impacts our perception of stress. Know that you are not alone in these feelings. It is okay to express that you are lonely, and it is something you shouldn't have to experience alone. There are three primary areas of loneliness. Intimate or emotional loneliness refers to absence of social support, such as that of a romantic partner. Relational loneliness refers to the absence of extended supports, such as friends or family. Finally, collective loneliness refers to community support such as a school or work support. So the absence of a community, the absence of feeling like you are linked to a larger group of people. Loneliness can be a factor that negatively impacts academic success. Some people may feel lonely when they are in social isolation, but other folks may feel lonely even when they're surrounded by people because they don't actually feel connected to those people. Many of us have heard of the expression of feeling lonely in a crowd. Reaching out and expressing the reasons for your loneliness is really important. You deserve to have those feelings expressed and validated. In order to mitigate feelings of loneliness, making connections with people can be really, really helpful. However, it's important to also acknowledge the barriers to these connections. International students face a variety of challenges that can make it hard for them to reach out to those around them. It can be daunting and stressful for anyone who is new to campus or the country to step outside of their comfort zone. Some of these barriers are things that need to be addressed by campuses to accommodate international students. Number one, culture shock. Moving to a new country, learning new ways of living and learning can be incredibly difficult and can really make us feel isolated. A lack of services supports or the awareness of those supports can also create a massive barrier. For new students, often they don't know who to turn to or what they may be able to access on a campus. Lack of opportunities to socially connect can also increase our feelings of loneliness. If we are new to a country or new to a campus and we don't know about clubs, we don't know about groups, we don't know how to connect to the community around us, it can really be isolating and a huge barrier. Connecting to other people is often also costly. So while it's great to say go to a concert or join a gym or join a club, sometimes those clubs and those opportunities come at a cost, which acts as a major barrier to students. Language barriers are also a huge barrier. If you don't feel comfortable speaking in English, sometimes that can really make going out and connecting with folks feel even more stressful. We're also seeing a rising tide of xenophobia across the country towards international students. And if you don't feel wanted, if you don't feel respected, or if you feel that racism is being directed at you, of course you're not going to feel comfortable, nor are you going to want to access supports. What we're also seeing in studies is that many international students feel insincerity from other students. So it's not to say that they aren't connecting or talking or meeting other students, but they're not developing those deep, those meaningful relationships with others. And again, if you don't have a meaningful relationship, that doesn't ease your sense of isolation. So research has also shown that stress and loneliness have the ability to feed off of each other unless action is taken. Stress can cause us to feel negative emotions like irritability, fear, or depressed or overwhelmed, and even tired. These feelings of stress might make you want to isolate yourself from others. This, in turn, can increase the feelings of loneliness when you decide not to reach out to anyone or even when you decide to skip social plans. Loneliness, on the other hand, has shown to dysregulate our stress response, and it can really skew our perception of response and can even change the way we react to stress, therefore impacting our academic performance. All of these feelings can lead to more stress. And it's almost like a vicious circle. The lonelier we feel, the more stress we may feel, and the more stress we may feel, the lonelier we may be. Forming connections and relationships and having social supports really helps ease loneliness and stress. One way it does this is through boosting a hormone called oxytocin. It decreases our feelings of stress and increases our sense of attachment to other people. When we feel drawn to people, it is easier to maintain our relationships. Let's take a moment and think about some of the strategies we can apply to feelings of loneliness. Number one is something we like to call to name it, to tame it. In naming and understanding our feelings of loneliness, we begin to understand the underlying emotions it brings and address them. Until we put a name to our emotions, it's really, really hard to address them. Emotions are not right or wrong, but rather understanding what it is we are feeling and be able to accept it and name it and validate it is the first steps in improving our situation. When it comes to loneliness, it's also important to build community. Making time and reaching out to friends or family back home, or joining a club or an intramural sport activity to create opportunities for connection are great ways of beginning to build community. More and more, campuses are also creating events for international students to meet each other and to create a sense of community. Find ways to do social activities that don't depend on spending if finances are a concern. Rather, explore some of the free community events in your area. You may also want to strengthen existing relationships. More friends is not always better. Rather, connecting with friends on a deeper level can have a massive impact and can be a huge benefit in easing isolation. Another way of easing isolation is adopting a pet. Again, we need to be financially prudent, but if you're not able to either financially or just because of the housing situation adopt a pet, you might want to consider volunteering at a shelter. There has been significant research that shows the healing impact of animals. You may also want to limit social media. FOMO is real. The fear of missing out is really real. Oftentimes, what people are presenting on social media is not a true experience. Social media often makes us feel like we are left out and that we are the only ones not at the party. The other thing that it does is that it forces us to compare ourselves to inauthentic and unrealistic expectations. Another great strategy in beginning to deal with our loneliness is moving to an approach coping method. Studies have shown that approach coping will influence academic performance, stress tolerance, and overall mental health and well-being among students. But what is approach coping? Approach coping involves behaviors or thoughts that revolve around problem solving or seeking information. They can look like actively seeking advice, assistance, and emotional support from others. It primarily consists of two ways. The first is primary control, and the second is secondary control. Primary control is acting on the source of stress, while secondary control is adapting to the source of stress. Avoidance coping involves directing away from the threat by either withdrawing or distracting from the unpleasant feelings or thoughts. I refer to it as the head in the sand approach. It can be potentially beneficial in the short term, but really what it's doing is avoiding unpleasant thoughts or feelings that'll come back to haunt you. If we don't deal with them, if we don't address them, they will return. It's also associated with a lower quality of life. So why don't we put this into practice and look at how we can put approach coping into practice. So if we're following primary control, as an example, I might feel that I've lost touch with my friends or my culture from home, and I might start feeling really lonely. But I can switch gears and look at it in a different way by saying, I'm going to put in strategies to schedule time to connect. So I'm going to, every Sunday night at 7 o'clock, create a Zoom call with my family back home. In terms of secondary control, I might, for example, feel that my peers are excluding me from plans and really feel lonely about this. But again, I can switch to approach coping and think about how I can journal about this and how the journaling can remind me that this does not define my character, rather it defines theirs. So again, really at the heart of the matter is going to problem solving and seeking information as a form of coping. Let's take it to the domains of wellness. This is my favorite slide, and this is really a great way of looking at different ways that we can approach our loneliness and create strategies to combat our loneliness. One of the things that I love about this slide is that it really shows us there is not one simple way of dealing with loneliness. Rather, that when we are looking for solutions, they are usually multifactorial. There's usually a number of things that we can do together to move towards feeling less isolated. In terms of the domains of wellness, for example, we can look at exercise, and we can look at the ways that exercise can really create an opportunity to connect with others, going for a walk, going to the gym. We might be meeting folks, but also the simple act of actually doing exercise, going for a walk, getting our heart rate up can have a massive impact on our stress level. We can also, at times, seek out psychotherapy and or the support of a psychiatrist. And while not every individual who is lonely may seek psychotherapy as a way of combating their feelings of isolation, it's really important for us as a society to destigmatize individuals who are seeking professional support. It's normal, it's natural, and it's okay. Nature. We really take nature for granted. And when folks move to Canada, their first reaction when they see the cold, when they see the snow, may be to hibernate. But the importance of nature for us as humans cannot be denied. There has been massive amount of research into biophilic design, really bringing nature into our houses. So if for whatever reason we cannot go out for a walk, we cannot go out and see nature and see trees and see flowers, we can also bring nature in. So research has shown, for example, in hospitals, having something as simply as a small plant beside a bedside can improve healing. Nature really is a great healing mechanism for our souls. Supportive relationships. Again, lots of studies have shown the huge benefit of strong relationships in our lives. Having a mentor, having someone to connect with, to support us, to learn from can be hugely, hugely important in our lives. Another strategy might be looking at mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness and meditation can look differently for different individuals. For some of us, mindfulness may be being alone, meditating alone in silence. For other folks, the concept of mindfulness can be in drinking a glass of water, being mindful of how that water is coming into our system, how it is replenishing us, how it is really healing us as we take that sip of water. Please have a visit to our website. In the last couple of years, we've created a number of information sheets directed towards international students on topics such as test anxiety, culture shock, and the winter blues. They are free and they are there for you. It's also important to take a step back and to look at some of the free resources, mental health resources that exist for students across the country. Good to Talk, Connex Ontario are all examples of free resources that you can access to connect with another human being to talk about how you are feeling. Don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for joining our session on loneliness. We hope that these strategies will be helpful to you and that you'll be able to put them into place. Don't hesitate to reach out and learn more about the Centre for Innovation in Campus Mental Health at our website, campusmentalhealth.ca. Thank you.